Hello everyone, today will be my first Eggplane from the Hasegawa series. I guess this is their 18th casting, the SR-71 Blackbird. I've had this model kit for a long time, I just don't like painting model kits, so... Oh boy, this thing is originally from 2011. I don't know about this, but originally copyright back then, so they've been making this kit for a while. They're pretty cheap kits actually. If I can find you an AliExpress link, I will. But otherwise, eBay, Amazon, hobby shops, all that stuff. So you have some waterslide decals, and quite a lot of them. Okay, instructions. There's some English as well. But it's really just a matter of looking at shapes and the part numbers, figuring out. So pleasantly, it's a pretty simple kit to build. And pleasantly, since the SR-71 is black, this should be pretty easy. I am going to probably paint it, but and then definitely clear coat the decals in there. Let's see what the plastics look like in the event if you actually don't intend to paint the thing. You know, I'm pretty sure these are meant for like children. I don't know if the box said an age group. I'm looking at the back of the box. Coincidentally, this is actually licensed by Lockheed Martin, the people that made this thing, right? That's quite interesting. I'm looking for an age group now. There is this number 60128. Maybe that's the overall Hasegawa model kit line. Maybe it's in Japanese, but anyways, it looks simple enough to give to a small kid that's starting out in model kit building. Or an adult. Maybe you've just never built a model kit before. You want to start small, you know. Don't go buy some crazy model kit that costs hundreds of dollars just to mess it up. Well, I gotta say, the molded plastic is nice. It's quite clear. I mean, it's a curved surface, but you can actually see through it pretty easily. That's actually very impressive. Better than most of the die-cast cars I review. Very nice. The challenge is painting that frame of that. Masking tape, maybe? I don't know. Put that up there. Alright, so now, yeah, the plastic itself is not very pretty to look at. You can see here some weird graying of the plastic. You can see some like lines where maybe the plastic met itself in the mold. So I think if you want to make this look nice, you're gonna have to paint it. Possibly just a dull clear coat would make a lot of that vanish. It's hard to say, but I'll probably do the proper job and paint it black first. Look at this. You got like a character that to me looks like the person is Russian. I mean, this was developed to spy over Russia, so I guess maybe if you put the plane on a stand, this is the Russian person the plane was spying on. Oh yeah, see, there's some binoculars here, so that's interesting. I find it interesting that they would have to waste the plastic to tell us that this is made in Japan. It's not like in 2011 Japan was an unknown country. That's it, 2 runners. Very good. Alright, so I might skip the build because I'm going to use this model for a couple other hobby tool related stuff, so we'll see you later. Gonna read some Wikipedia. It's gonna be a long read because this is an awesome airplane. This plane was first introduced in 1966. It was a strategic reconnaissance aircraft, meaning 3 people would be inside of this thing wearing pretty much what looked like astronaut suits, because this was the highest flying airplane and also the fastest flying airplane and the fastest human manned air-breathing airplane. And these records still stand today. Let's see. This thing would fly Mach 3.2 at 85,000 feet or 26,000 meters up in the air. It was so fast that at the time, like during the Vietnam War, no surface-to-air missile could even catch it. Although later on, the Swedish and the Russians did get missile locks on it, but they never actually shot one down because that would have been World War III. Okay. they made 32 of these airplanes because they had such a long turnover time to make them fly again. They weren't particularly reliable airplanes. 85% of the body was made of titanium, which at the time was really difficult to source, and so there was no fuel sealing system, so the skin would literally leak jet fuel when it was on the ground. But when it got to Mach 3.2, the heat would make all those gaps close up, and then it would fly at its intended speed. It was an early form of stealth, as you can see here. It's basically like a thin dagger with two giant engines and a cockpit attached to it. So these planes flew over 17,000 sorties. 3,500 plus were mission sorties, and over 11,000 hours flying at more than Mach 3. So pretty crazy. They even thought about bringing them back for a little while, but the drones, the UAVs, pretty much won all that money. So this plane was retired in the late 1990s. Like 1999 was the very last NASA flight. Alright, so really cool plane. Let's look into the actual model here. So I built this, this is a 3D printed stand, but it'll help us look at this thing. The actual build wasn't too difficult. I mean, the thing had less than 20 parts. Just alignment could be an issue. If you're going to do this, be careful to, maybe you want to glue these engines on first onto this body part here, and then glue these wings. I glued these wings on first, and then I realized they weren't aligned properly, so they're not 100% aligned properly. So yeah, learn from my mistakes. I guess I'll just show here. I don't know what these are, but I saw them on the photographs. I think these are like the various camera ports, and some of the camera ports, I believe, were made of solid quartz because this plane would get so hot at Mach 3, normal glass wouldn't work. Let's see what else here. The decals went on relatively well. I got a few air pockets under that decal though. Well, anyways. I also had a problem with the gappiness of these engine nacelles joining to this body here. It's kind of hard to see being a black thing, but I put a little putty in there to fill it in, and a little here, but still I didn't do a very good job smoothing it out. I didn't feel like spending too much time on this. Here again, it was a little gappy. So okay, just some titanium or gunmetal paint in here. The decals were okay, except for some reason I managed to tear this letter. I think I was trying to wipe off the extra decal glue, and it just tore that off, which is a real shame. I spent so much time on this little thing. It didn't come with a figure to go into the airplane. It came with some weird little Russian person with binoculars, but I didn't even bother painting it. It wouldn't even fit in here. It's much bigger. So this is just a random 3D printed pilot I have. I'm trying to simulate the colors of these astronaut suits the crew would wear. There's supposed to be 3 people in here. Little poster putty here, and then I gotta say, boy, this is really difficult. Yeah, I had to paint this thing. These tiny strips. The problem with this window mold is this window separators are barely there. They're probably like a third or half a millimeter difference in height between, to indicate the window. If they had just molded this piece of plastic thicker and had the windows either deeper or much higher, you could easily mask it off or hand paint it. But this took a long time, several hours to paint this, mask it off with masking tape, cut the masking tape, paint it, and all that stuff. And I still had to go back over it because the clear coat I used with rattle can tore through the black paint. So yeah, be mindful of that. I added a little black paint in there as well. I thought these are windows, but they're not. So I had some liquid masking, and then after looking at real photos, I took it off. So it's a little rough there. It's unfortunate. I have no idea what this is. I don't see this on the photographs of the real plane, but I guess at some point in time it had something there. So I really wish they did a better job designing these things. I'm pretty sure these are aimed for kids, but I am positive a kid would almost never be able to pull this off. This is so difficult, very annoying, because again, it's almost indistinguishable where the black should be and the window is. The pegs are quite short, so I have a little bit of poster putty here. Maybe I'll be able to find a cartoonish pilot one day. This is supposed to be a gray color. It's just, I think, darker than this, but I didn't have the proper paint at hand. There is a decal, though, of the instrument pinnacle there with all the gauges, so I think that looks pretty nice. Hold on. I have to laugh because it's just so deformed. It's hilarious to look at. I'm a little curious how long this thing is. This thing is like 91, 92 millimeters in length. The wingspan is like 101. Alright, so the tires are separate pieces from the landing gear, so it would be easier to just paint the landing gear separate before you glue on the tires, except for this middle one is part of the landing gear, but still easy to paint. There was a light just meant to be painted silver, but I sanded it down and put a crystal jewel bead there. Makes it look a little cooler, I think, catching the light. Yeah, I'm really let down by that. It did come with two sets of decals, by the way. This is the more colorful one. The other one is just all red, which I think is actually more... I saw photographs of that as well. With 32 different SR-71s. I'm sure there was a bunch of different liveries. One thing I also learned is the black paint helped cool the airplane at Mach 3. And also, there are corrugations here in the wings. Because at such speeds, a normal smooth skin would tear. So the corrugation is to allow the skin to flex, you know, between normal speeds and Mach 3. So that was interesting to learn. But it's only on the top, which is interesting as well. Okay. Just some cartoon plane comparisons. So the F-14 by Top Gun Chen is much bigger, as you can see. A much more expensive model, even in unpainted form. It costs more. I think you can pick these up for between $10 and $20, depending on where you're getting it. But the Top Gun Chen is simply superior in every way because there's all magnetized parts and more opening panels and stuff if you want to pose your thing differently. Like here's my A-10, which I have posed in like a ground crew diorama. So that's just huge again. I think maybe it's obviously easier to make a bunch of moving parts and opening panels when the thing's bigger. It's also easier to paint. So you get what you pay for. I'm really happy I have these Top Gun Chen planes, but at the same time I'm quite happy I have these because it's a fraction of the cost, and I think it actually looks even crazier in this deformation, which I really like. It's just funnier to look at. The only issue is, you know, the panel lines are so faint. Look how faint and thin these are. These are raised lines. They're like less than a millimeter, much less than a millimeter. These are very shallow, right? So all the details are very, very faint. So I airbrushed this, so the paint isn't very thick. Most kids would probably try rattle canning it. Rattle canning would just basically make most of these details go away because the paint would be laid on so thick. So I don't know why Hasegawa chose to make these poor decisions when they designed this mold, because they make realistic model kits and they should know that the deeper the panel gaps are, the easier it is to mask off and the easier it is to paint and scrape off paint if you put too much, that kind of stuff. Like, there's just barely any detail on this body. But I do feel like maybe this is called an egg plane because I think what they're doing is trying to actually simulate the size of a real egg, and then they just graft in wings and a cockpit. So that's why they're so small. which I really appreciate because my channel is called Small Model Collector because it can collect more things if they're smaller. If they're bigger, I'm running out of cabinet space. It's already becoming an issue, so. Alright, well anyways, fantastic stuff, so I will make more of these egg planes just because they're inexpensive. But my initial impression is they're not really for children if you want them to look nice. They're just not designed as well as they should be. But if you're a little kid, you probably wouldn't care about these little details anyways. Or would you? I don't know. I made a lot of model kits as a kid. And I appreciate Tamiya. They did a better job with their model kits. Thanks for watching. We'll see you the next time we do an egg plane.